Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. Today, we are going to be talking. Well, this is, of course, Yankees Unloaded. Totally botched that. Today, we're going to be talking about the Yankees 7-9 loss to the Mets. The Mets. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on social media at JK Bogan, Gary on social media at Gary Sheffield Jr., and, of course, the Yankees Unloaded. So, this is we're going to try and make this not short and sweet, but we're going to try and really, because we value your time. We don't want to, set this out forever. We want to cover all the things that we want to cover. And so Gary had a nice little list that he tweeted out. Gary, we'll start off with your list. I mean, this game was vomit water until Judge hit the grand slam, gave us the most obvious false hope ever. I mean, we all knew they weren't going to win this game.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it.
It got people to turn it back on because you have phones nowadays. They'll tell you, oh, the Yankees are within striking distance, and then you turn it on, and so we're going to talk about the lineup. Just awful. Gleyber, DJ, LeMahieu, Ben Rice, Gerrit Cole. But let's start off with Gleyber, because I feel like at one point or another, Gleyber had fans in the clubhouse. I feel like Gleyber had fans, just fans. And I feel like Gleyber had a fan in both of us. He's completely lost us. I mean, you and I are both off the bandwagon there. We've been off the bandwagon for a while. We've been saying this guy will probably get traded at the deadline. He's not getting brought back. You were ahead of it, though. You said there's no way he comes back before the season. I saw it more as he's the younger guy of the Rizzos and the LeMahieux. And I saw it from a perspective, like the way he played after like the end of the season. He was the only one who was hitting at the end of the year, and DJ LeMahieu, ironically. But now this isn't acceptable. And I'm going to take it a step further before I send it over to you. I was watching some old Clint Frazier highlights, all right? And what I'll say is this. Clint Frazier hit like 267, and people were coming for his head. They were absolutely nitpicking every little effing thing that Clint Frazier would do. And then he had the concussion, never was the same. But it's so bizarre to me how the Yankees don't hold guys like Gleyber Torres to that same standard. And it's not just Gleyber, it's also LeMahieu, but I don't want to break it all up into this. Gary, I'm going to say this before I send it over to you. I think it really comes down to the thought I had the other day. I saw somebody comment under your post, said the same damn thing. Gleyber Torres acts like he's Robinson Cano without any of the production, without the flash, without any of the accolades. Gleyber Torres does not run out anything. If you watch Gleyber Torres in 2019, he's scoring from first. Where did that speed go? Or is it just he doesn't care anymore? Because either way, it's an issue. So, yeah, Gary, I just think it's gotten to the point where I said it today. Spencer Jones hit a home run today. I quote tweeted it. I said, you know what? I changed my mind. Call up Spencer Jones. Call up whoever the hell wants to play, whoever wants to run to first, whoever wants to actually get up there and actually swing the freaking bat. I mean, this is ridiculous, man. It's a bunch of entitled professional baseball players that have been here for too long. They haven't had any sort of pressure on them. And now the shine is on them because Stanton can't cover up anybody anymore. It's just Judge, Soto, and Volpe. That's it. And then you have Ben Rice and some other guys. But that's my thought. What is yours on Gleyber?
I think that's all fair. And I really can't remix what you said. But to try and break down what's so frustrating about this type of player, I know some people mention him and Cano in the same sentence, and that's more style of play. It doesn't have anything to do with output, just to be clear on this show. Everybody that's a part of this show knows that Robinson Cano is on another planet, okay, performance-wise. But what's so frustrating about a player like this, and it's mostly the reason why I said Gleyber Torres has no future with the New York Yankees, had nothing to do with the fact that he's 27, he's still a young player, Has nothing to do with the fact that he can still hit 20 plus homers. He's got that type of potential. It more has to do with when the New York Yankees bring in players like Verdugo, Juan, Soto, right? Guys who are clearly fits on this team. They were checking off boxes that, in my opinion, Gleyber was absolutely necessary to be on the team to fill those roles. But now that you've filled the team with better players, guys that can do the job that you're asking him to do, they can do it better. Now that that's happening, I know Gleyber Torres, when he's not going well, he's not going to do the little things that a championship team needs. Now, it's easy to say that let's point out this player for not doing the little things, and you can get nitpicky in times when you're not winning games. And just to prove it, Baltimore Orioles fans are in a well, I guess you can say their panties are in a bunch right now because they can't win a game. Okay? They just passed the biggest test of the year in beating the Yankees in a series again. And yet the sky is still falling because they're not making up any ground on us, right? So long story short here is it's easy to get negative when the team's losing. But having said all this, when you're hitting in 288 at-bats, okay, not plate appearances, at-bats, you're hitting 215. You're leading the league in errors at second base. You do not run out ground balls to the point where Yes Network can call you out publicly, okay, which I thought was 100% fair.
Absolutely.
And the worst part by far of all of this, Jake, and this is what's infuriating to me, is a lack of accountability. And here's how I know there is none. Aaron Boone, after the game, was asked about his lack of hustle in terms of Gleyber Torres, and he said that he was nursing a groin. Do you know how no business Gleyber Torres has on the field if he's not healthy? He is not the type of player. It should be proven by now to play through an injury like this.
No.
That's what drives me up a wall. So, by the way, I don't believe that injury story a second.
I don't
Not
either.
at all. Because I would have heard about this before. Now I see you jogging down the line, which is so ironic because when Gleyber Torres hits a ball in the gap or we put a ball in the gap and he's running the bases, he's able to run hard. But wouldn't you know it, when he hits a weak ground ball, when you just expect the guy to make the play and he's walking to first base. Robinson Cano can get away with this type of behavior, and I still didn't really like it from him.
I hate it.
But when you're hitting 320 and you're hitting 28 jacks, we'll let it slide from time to time.
Yeah.
But a player like Gleyber Torres, who was inexplicably hitting fourth today, are you kidding? That's not championship baseball. There were so many other moves that the Yankees could have made. I mean, you honestly could have gotten away with Ben Rice hitting fourth today, and I wouldn't have squealed about it, because at the very least you could say, well, Ben Rice, he's been taking some really good, his approach has been solid, right? He's been going the other way. There's things that you can describe to me that player or maybe another, probably wouldn't be Verdugo because he's not swinging a hot bat right now. But having said this, there's so many other moves that the Yankees could have made at the heart of their lineup today. And to be honest with you, for what reason? Can you imagine pitching to Aaron Judge with that guy hitting behind him? Just complete nonsense.
Why do you think
absolutely ridiculous?
He had the bases loaded.
I would have contemplated intentionally walking Aaron Judge and pitching to Gleyber Torres.
They basically did. He was like, all right, the last two pitches were nowhere near Judge. He was like, oh, right. I got Torres up, and then I have a struggling Verdugo, and then JD Davis. JD Davis did not look good today.
Yeah, and it's a short sample size. But,
yeah, it's one game.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Ben Rice should never be on the bench, period. I'll say this right now because I don't know if you will, but I will. Ben Rice is the fourth best player in this lineup already. I'm willing to say that.
Okay.
Every stop he has been at, AA, AAA, now the majors, he is raked. And now we have 316. And I know that the sample size is small, but here's another thing I want to point out. Aaron Boone, who we've given so much credit to, Aaron Boone has a pattern. Okay? Now, when you think of, there are certain coaches that you think of, like playoffs come around, they just like totally lose it. They shit their pants, essentially. Like, it's just their teams can't win the playoffs. Like, they're all over sports.
Yeah, we know which managers, though. The Doc Rivers of the world.
Yes. And then you have the one that goes to the championship and lays an egg as well. The thing that Aaron Boone, his shtick is actually very simple. So I don't think we've given him enough credit in the past for having feel. Aaron Boone, last year, the team started kind of falling off a little bit, right? Right around this time. Now, they weren't nearly as good as this team, but still, you get my point. I'm seeing a pattern here, and I don't like it. Aaron Boone goes with feel at the beginning of the season, and then right around the All-Star break, he starts micromanaging. And on days off, he's doing shit like, oh, I know that this, rookie has given us juice in the lineup, and he's actually probably our fourth best hitter in the lineup right now with Stanton out, but I'm going to sit him against lefties, even though he just went up against Chris Sale and had good at-bats against Chris Sale, who's probably the scariest lefty to ever go up against.
Yeah, we all saw that at bat. We absolutely all saw that at bat. No one, I don't get that. But again, it's more so about...
He's gone more analytical as of late. And Gary, I'll tell you this. We've talked about the feel. He has gone away from the feel, gone more analytical. And since he's gone analytical, probably right around the time Gerrit Cole made his debut is when for the season, we started to see this. Wouldn't you know, they've been losing. They've lost now, 4 series in a row?
I guess the question is, what analytic or eye test tells you Gleyber Torres should be hitting fourth? That's the thing is, I know we're trying to, trust me, I completely understand the criticism right now of Aaron Boone and the criticism of Gleyber Torres. But I guess of that one decision, since that's how we started our show.
Yeah.
How did we get to that decision? I know it wasn't analytics, because analytics would never put a 215 hitter with an ops that's 80 points below league average. We're not talking about 4 hitters league average. No, we're talking about league average, like anywhere in the lineup. Okay. So, the average baseball player who steps up to the plate, his ops is 700. Yeah. Gleyber's is 627.
No,
so
I agree.
I don't know what analytic or what Aaron Boone saw where he said, like, is this just youth trying to
ready for me to blow your
confidence
mind?
In him?
What's happening?
What?
I'll tell you what's happening. Okay. Analytics are there when we talk about and say, oh, it's analytics, the reason why Gleyber's batting fourth. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can tell you it's not a stat. People hear analytics and assume it's a sabermetric or something. It's not that. It's an analytical model. You know how I know that? Because if you've ever done sports betting before and you've ever seen on Twitter, people will have their analytical models for the day, like say DFS, FanDuel, DraftKings.
Right.
They have models that they've done X amount of simulations for that day, for that matchup, putting in the numbers, and that is what they pumped out, right? Doesn't always work out, but that is what they pumped out. Gleyber, in their analytical model, and this is me guessing, but I feel like this is what it actually is, came out today like he's going to give them the best chance based on everybody in their lineup, the 9 guys that they chose. He was going to give them the best chance in the cleanup role. That's what their model showed. I guarantee you that's what it is. It has nothing, because there's no, to your point, there's not a stat out there that even shows me that Gleyber should even be in the lineup, period. He's batting .215. He offers nothing. He's leading the league in second base errors. I mean,
right.
There's just not really anything there. And I mean, it just brings me to my point here about slow playing Jason Dominguez, slow playing, even at this point, Spencer Jones. It's hard for me to sit here and be like, you know what? Yeah, he needs more growth. He needs room to, I don't even know if that's the case, because we do not have right now. We're watching Jahmai Jones, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, at this point, Trent Grisham with his 138 batting average, I don't even care. The guy at least puts the ball in the seats. So
yeah, he's good at something. He's good at 2 things, actually.
JD Davis, 1 game. I'm not about to rip this guy and say he shouldn't be on the team, but we've had a legitimate sample size. LeMahieu is going to be 36 in July. The play he made in the field today, which is the only reason he's in the lineup, was horrendous.
Yeah, it was bad.
I mean, how on earth do you allow that? Francisco Lindor, for those of you who missed it, he hit a dribbler to third, and LeMahieu like ran around the ball and let it go behind him, and he was able to get to second on an like an
Yeah, can I
infield
transition
dribbler.
this though? Because
Yeah,
Gleyber Torres, this is the most important thing in my opinion. I think everybody agrees that Gleyber Torres is absolutely putrid right now.
yeah,
Um, I think it would. I honestly would probably say the way to transition this is just to say, what do we do with him? And I know a lot of people say, well, you can just DFA him, or people can say, well, why don't we trade this player? What can we get for him? That's a question I hear a lot. And I figured tonight would be the best night to possibly answer that. And the question is, who gives a rip? Because if you really think about it, who cares what you get for a player who's hitting 210 that's below league average? Again, you cannot wait around until you get a trade that you think, oh, yeah, we're winning this trade. Like, for example, you're not going to trade Gleyber Torres and then go get some high prize player in Major League Baseball, because when Gleyber Torres is worth a high prize player, and there's been times in his career where he was worth that in a trade, well, you're not going to want to trade him in that sense.
no,
Okay. So anytime Yankees fans and just baseball fans in general are told we should trade this player and go get a reliever or another starter, maybe as an insurance on Gerrit Cole, who clearly is not ready, right? Clark Schmidt's hurt. You can make the argument that the Yankees can go get another starting guy. Well, Gleyber Torres is not going to field you that, clearly, okay? He's not going to field you something you really want. There's no team in baseball that's thinking, you know what we really need? We need a guy who's hitting 212. He's on pace for 14 homers. He's leading the league in errors. He doesn't hustle. He has an ailing groin, their manager says, right? Because there's only one of two things happening. Either Gleyber Torres is hurt or our manager's lying to make sure he stays on the field. That's the only two things that could be happening right now. So pick your poison. But you're not going to tell me that Gleyber Torres is going to field you a really good player out on the market. No, sometimes the team can get better when you tell the team, if you don't hustle or perform, we will trade you. We will get rid of you. And when you send that message, it doesn't matter how long you've been with the team. Who cares how long you've been with this team? None of these players, not Aaron Judge, not Soto, not Torres, not Verdugo, not JD Davis. None of these guys have won the Yankees a World Series. So absolutely none of them can fail to hustle, can fail to perform for a long period of time and expect to stay on the team. So my answer to the question is get rid of Gleyber Torres, all means necessary. It does not matter what you receive. That's Brian Cashman's job. Get the best thing you can get in return. Find the best possible fit for the team. It's not going to be some sexy pickup. And then go put someone either from your system, give them an opportunity to play at second base, give someone an opportunity to play at third base. And we've already discovered over the past few weeks, we've got a problem at catcher. We have an issue. And we have some answers within our organization already, whether it be Rice or Wells. Some people feel like Wells isn't necessarily as offensively equipped to replace Trevino. Fine. You know who is? Ben Rice.
yeah,
So that's my thing, is that the Yankees have some answers that are already in-house and they're choosing to go against them. They're using formulas, frankly, that I don't understand and I clearly can't read, because I can't bring myself to how these decisions make sense. How you can put Gleyber Torres in the 4th spot for the New York Yankees, because of injuries and circumstances, but a player who's underperforming in his contract year of all years. If Gleyber Torres can't perform in this year of all years, the easiest year to perform, by the way, in a contract year, everyone's motivated. He's giving us this. He's not worth putting on the team. I promise you, this is the best he can possibly give us. This is not enough.
no. So 2 trades came to mind. When you were talking about Gleyber, the first thing I would say is, and just remind people, the Yankees were able to get freaking Clayton Beeter for Joey Gallo. So absolutely does Gleyber Torres have value, but what is value? Okay. If you're willing to work with whatever you get and you're willing to understand this might not be a contributor at the MLB level,
Yes.
okay. But at the same time, it could be a contributor at the MLB level, because when you're trading a guy like Gleyber away and you want an MLB level player, maybe you want a Gerrit Cole, maybe back in the day when he was playing well, you'd be able to get him. You wouldn't now, but he'd be a part of a bigger trade. So I mentioned the first one, I mentioned the Joey Gallo trade, right? That was the first thing. The second example would be Todd Frazier. So the Yankees, I know he was 31, but hear me out. Todd Frazier had like 15 homers, was batting 207. So, I mean, he had more homers than Gleyber, but kind of the same type of season at that point near the All-Star break, near the trade deadline. Just not really a great season for him. And the White Sox ended up trading him with Tommy Kahnle and David Robertson to the Yankees for Ian Clarkin, Tito Polo, Tyler Clippard, and top prospect and first-round pick Blake Rutherford.
Tyler Clippard.
I know. So I guess my point is, I think if Gleyber goes, it's either going to be like a Gallo deal, which to me, say what you will, he is not anywhere near the level of Gallo. Gallo was literally unplayable in every meaning of the word.
He was hitting 160. He was horrible in the media. He was nothing.
He was complaining.
Joey Gallo was atrocious. He was a barnyard explosion. He was bad.
Gleyber is actually liked in the clubhouse. So I don't feel like there's like an urgency to get him out and take whatever you can. So I do think that works to the Yankees' favor, because I think at the deadline, he's somebody that you package alongside some other guys. So think about this. Peraza, okay? This is an opportunity. Where are you on Peraza? Are you going to give him an opportunity to play second? If not, put him in the deal with Gleyber. Okay, there you go. You got those two guys. Then you can go and be like, these guys that are going to be Rule 5 draft eligible in November, let's just move on from them if we don't see a role with them. And that's how you create a deal similar to the one the Yankees got. So when the Yankees traded with the White Sox, they got Todd Frazier, who could play every day. Not a great player at that point in his career, but okay.
Definitely a contributor.
Had, a home run bat, all of that. And he's a good fielder. Then you got Tommy Kahnle. We all know how that ended up, because he's still with the Yankees. Okay, they went out and got him again. And then David Robertson. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And I would steer towards the Miami Marlins, because they've been obsessed with Gleyber Torres for the last 4 years. They've tried to acquire him every single year for the last 4 years. Okay.
Are you talking about this whole like Luzardo kind of camp?
Yeah, I don't think they would get Luzardo though. So
right. The Yankees' problem though is they don't really know. So let's just say the Yankees decide they're going to trade. They don't want to get a player that can help in 2 years. The player has to help right now.
Well, that's why I think we're going the direction. It's not going to be a Gallo trade. It's going to be, hey, we trade Gleyber and then probably Peraza and probably another pitcher, and they end up with Tanner Scott and maybe another, couple guys from the Marlins. Tanner Scott right now is their closer, so it would help out their bullpen. He's a good arm. He's a guy that's already been mentioned by Passan to go to the Yankees. He's the guy that he thinks that's the best fit for the Yankees. I like Scott, okay? Because Scott makes sense in the short term. Don't get me wrong. I love the whole control thing. I love having 3-4 years of control and having a young guy. But let's be honest with ourselves. Mason Miller is not an option. He is not available. They would have to give up Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, and the Yankees are not doing that. So if we're trying to be honest with ourselves and try to be realistic, Gleyber having the experience and all of that, obsession that the Marlins have had, and Tanner Scott being available because the Marlins aren't good, there's a very real chance here that they could be like, all right, we'll get Gleyber. Gleyber will put butts in the seats because he's a bigger name, right?
You know who else would put butts in the seats is Luis Arias. What they traded him so they can go get Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. That's
horrible. You know how bad that is? Like, I know we're not a Marlins show, but really think about what we're talking about. Gleyber Torres, and you're absolutely right. They've been trying to get him for like 3 or 4 years. It's been a while.
They would still probably do it.
They probably would do it, but think how bad that trade is from Miami's perspective. You're going to bring in Gleyber Torres for half a year. He's having the worst year of his entire career, and that's saying something.
I
And
think straight
you're
up,
going to have
he'd
to
be
pay him?
he'd be brought in so they would pay him. Like that would be them. And honestly, hear me out when I say this. They might feel like they have a good deal at their hands because you know how people are bionic and they're like, "Oh, I can do anything," and all this, and the Yankees are the problem, not Glaber. You know there are organizations out there, Gary, that are watching this
Oh, yeah.
closely, are waiting for the Yankees to drop him and saying, "You know what? I think he just can't play in the Bronx anymore. But if he played in Miami, he has a lot of pressure off him. He would do it." Now, I don't
Well,
agree
that's
with that.
fair. Well,
I
that's
don't
fair
agree with
because
it at
they
all,
did that
but
with Sonny Gray. You remember that? Larry Rothschild was just horrendous
yeah.
with Sonny Gray. People said, well, we think we can do something with Sonny Gray. We don't know what happened. He was good before you. He was terrible in New York. So we think we can do something with him, right? Cincinnati brings him in, and then Sonny Gray all of a sudden looks like, I mean, Sonny Gray to this day is a solid pitcher in the big league. So yeah, sometimes you don't know what to do with him. Even if you're a really good organization, sometimes the change of scenery does help a player. I'm sure Gleyber Torres would play better outside of New York just because, frankly, it's easier to play when you're not playing for the Yankees. Playing for the Yankees is not easy. You have shows like Us, right? Talking Yanks, all these other shows just over analyzing all these different moves and trades and plays. You hit a ground ball to third base. You think D-backs fans know if a player in game 105 of the season, if he didn't hustle down the first base line? They don't. Okay. The people at the game, and then like maybe a few thousand people who watched it on TV, they know, right? But the Yankees, like Twitter and Yankees social media and our whole aura is just like all eyes are on everything. And so I'm sure Gleyber Torres in some form or fashion would get better in some way on another team because just overall there being less pressure. But to be honest with you, I mean, would the Marlins take that bet? I mean, you said it. They've been after him 4 years in a row, so maybe they would.
Yeah, they clearly like something there. And I'll tell you that right now, the Marlins, I think everybody's hoping for business. I think Edward Cabrera is available. I think Braxton Garrett's available. I do think
Okay.
Luzardo's available. Now I really think about it because hear me out when I say this. Luzardo is a 5 ERA. Okay.
Mhm.
Braxton Garrett, he has a 5.35 ERA. Sixto Sanchez, if you're interested in him, 6.06 ERA. Okay. And then you also have who I just mentioned, Edward Cabrera, who has a 7.17 ERA. So my point here is I think this is actually a gold mine here for the Yankees. If they can flip Gleyber Torres, okay, and say they send Gleyber Torres and they give up Oswaldo Peraza, I don't agree with it, right? I really don't. I think they should give him the opportunity at second. So I'm just making that known. But if we're being honest with ourselves, he's probably not getting another chance. He was sent down the same day that he was called up. So I think you put those two together, you put an arm, I don't know who it is, right? But you put something like that together, and I think you could end up with a guy like Tanner Scott for the bullpen. So he helps you out. And I think you could come away with one or maybe two of those young pitchers and you stash them. They have years of control. I think right now, none of them have good numbers. So I think the Marlins are open for business. And I think with this, I mean, think about this. As much as we clown Gleyber Torres would be one of the biggest names in that lineup. Okay. Brian De La Cruz, he's the best player in the lineup, arguably. You have Josh Bell, Jazz Chisholm, Jesus Sanchez, Jake Berger, Tim Anderson, Nick Gordon. I mean, for the most part, I think Gleyber would be right in there as one of the top guys, like that people know. So I do think there's marketability there. They love him. They've tried to get him for 4 years. And I think obviously you don't make this trade unless you're like, this is a guy that we've wanted for a while and you plan on signing him. And another thing, Gary, he's going to be cheap. He is not going to get the contract he thinks. Okay.
Oh, yeah, because he was, remember, the rumor was that he was looking for a 5-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah.
And also, remember, Detroit was offering us Tarek Skubal like 2 years ago.
Were they
because
really?
at the time, yes, I mean, this is when his ERA was like 4.90. And to be honest with you, when guys aren't pitching well, I'm telling you, like, there's certain guys that have good stuff.
That's the
If
time
they
to
don't put
trade
up,
for them.
yeah, I mean, But at the same time, if you really think about it, if we traded Gleyber Torres, he was off a 20-plus homer season at second base, one of the best hitting second basemen in the league. If we traded for him, Scooble, okay, everyone would be looking at Cashman thinking, what the hell are we doing? Why would you trade him when he's on his way up? And this is part of what I brought up earlier in the show. When a guy's playing well, you never want to trade him, right?
No.
The prospect's playing, he's hitting 290 in the minor leagues. People on social media will tell you, I don't want to get rid of this guy. He's part of the future. Then he starts dipping and you're like, who can we get for this guy? You can't just sell everything low. Like that's kind of how everybody sells and, buys stocks. They just see the stock going down, they sell it, and then the stock starts going up and they want to be a part of it even more.
Yep.
That's not when you buy and sell.
FOMO.
You kind of buy when everything's on its way down. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with Gleyber Torres. I think the Yankees, it's going to take some real smart work from Brian Cashman and finding a move that can help the Yankees long-term and give them some flexibility. But at the same time, you don't want to punt anything short-term because the option when you get rid of Gleyber Torres has to be somewhat efficient. Okay. You can't just put anyone at second base for the Yankees. It's got to be someone who's going to perform. If you don't have someone you're comfortable with, well, then frankly, we're just sitting on our ass and we're just going to wait this thing out.
No, I get that. I think I just have a feeling the Yankees are going to get Scott. I think that he's 29 years old. Fastball run value, he's at a 92nd percentile according to Baseball Savant. Pitching run value, 85 percentile. 94 expected batting average at a 193. 89th percentile in fastball velo. 100 percentile in average exit velocity, 83.3. So this guy can strike out guys, but he generates soft contact. His issue are walks. Okay, that has been his issue, but he doesn't let it destroy him because he doesn't really allow anyone to do, anything at the plate. So just keep an eye on Tanner Scott. I like the fit there. I think it makes sense. And I think he's somebody that you can grab without giving up the entire farm. And to me, I think Gleyber gives you an option there where now it's like, okay, you can create a Todd Frazier trade, we'll call it, instead of having to just unload the farm system. Because they're at a disadvantage with the injury to Pereira. Pereira was definitely one of their trade chips. He gets hurt. And now Jason Dominguez is hurt. And you're not going to trade Spencer Jones. So they don't really have a lot of trade chips right now. So I think Gleyber almost works out in a way. If they're willing to part with him, he becomes one of their trade chips. And he's still valuable in the eyes of these teams that, look, there's a reason why they're not, competing for World Series every year, but bad organizations that are like, yeah, we could definitely get the most out of him. Definitely it's all the Yankees' fault. So that's what I'll say there. We move on, though. DJ LeMahieu being a black hole offensively, which is exactly your words. Now, LeMahieu, there's no trade value. He's old. He's expensive. He's always hurt. He's batting 174. I genuinely think he's a DFA candidate, if anything, but I don't think they'll do it. But I definitely think he's a DFA candidate, 100%.
Okay. Well, if you really think about it, in my opinion, we're in the Josh Donaldson situation all over again.
Not even.
We essentially just got ourselves in a Donaldson situation, but we got there in a different way, right? Because DJ, again, we have to talk about the beginning of his career in New York. He's just been spectacular. He was amazing. Okay. He was, in my opinion, he was the most consistent thing about the Yankees, other than their dominant bullpens that we seemingly always had, right? With Britton and Chapman and Betances. But DJ LeMahieu was the one guy you wanted up there. In the postseason, a lot of people forget what he did in the playoffs. He was amazing, right? Opposite field homers against Houston. He was hitting big home runs in championship series when we needed him the most. But you fast forward to this year, which is really the only thing that matters when it comes to making decisions. DJ LeMahieu is a player that hopefully is going to hit for contact. Okay, that's what they're hoping for. He plays an above average third base, to which you brought up our last show. I think he was like a +3 defensively in terms of WAR. But Offensively, this is a player that has no pop, okay?
None.
Today's fly out to deep center field was the hardest ball I've seen him hit his entire time back on this team, okay? It's not dangerous. It's not, there's no plan. There's nothing, okay? And that doesn't mean that I think he's a bum or anything like that. Injuries happen in all sports. Age happens. Time doesn't just stop. Just because you're good when you're 32, it doesn't mean that I have to buy into you at 36. That's not what that means. I have to judge you based on who you are now, okay? We did this at the beginning of the year for Giancarlo Stanton. I never try to hide where I'm wrong. Never. Giancarlo Stanton, remember, Jake, we judged him based on not what he did this at the beginning in spring training, none of that. We judged him on what he did the year prior and the year prior to that. We said, was he durable? The answer was no. Did he hit homers? The answer was no. Did he hit for average somewhat? Was he streaky the way we needed him to be? He wasn't, right? So we made the judgment. I think, guys, we can make an accurate assessment that he's not going to be good for us. And long and behold, he surprised a lot of us. A lot of people were saying to DFA Giancarlo Stanton, not just us, okay? We all were. But then we put our hand up and say we are wrong. The ceiling on Giancarlo, I think we would all admit, is that he's going to put balls in the seats. We didn't expect him to, but we knew what the actual potential was that we didn't think he would get to. Well, he got there. What is the potential for DJ LeMahieu? 245? To hit 245 and hit 12 homers?
449 OPS is just wild.
In my opinion, it's not going to be this bad the whole season. It just cannot be, okay? It can't. He's just too good of a player for his career to allow it to go this way. He's no Chris Davis, okay? He's going to do something at some point. But is this the type of player? Is he at the level in October that you can have any expectation to where he should be starting at third base? If the answer's no, then we need to do something about it. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to tell people what it should be. If someone asks me what it is, I'll try and give you an answer. I told you Cabrera, right? I said Cabrera, I really liked what he did. I know he's kind of fallen off, but I liked what he was doing. Okay. But these other people are like, I don't want to give up on this player. What is it that you're hoping for is my question. I don't get it. So I'm sitting here as a podcast host and I'm supposed to sit here and watch someone hit a $185, not have power when Joey Gallo was hitting 160 because he hit 160.
A negative launch angle, by the way.
Negative launch angle. At least Joey Gallo, when he did eventually touch the ball, it went in the seats. He didn't hit a ton of homers for the Yankees, but at least I knew what the potential was for his at-bats. I mean, right? I knew what he was trying to do. What is DJ LeMahieu trying to do right now? That's
Michael K went off on this.
What did he say?
Well, he was like, LeMahieu's great, but he does not have one extra base hit this year. And he was bringing up no ribbies.
How many at bats does he have? I think that's
so he brought up
context.
Okay,
he has 62 at bats.
Yeah. And there goes Gary.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
His slugging is 194.
Well, my question for you, you see the way Gleyber's hitting. You see the way LeMahieu's hitting. J.D. Davis is not having a good year. And obviously, he just got acquired. Yep. I mean, say what you will about Trevino. Why the hell is the 250 hitter hitting ninth? Why is he hitting below Jahmai Jones, who's batting 190? Why is he hitting below DJ LeMahieu? This lineup was I think this is one of the all-time worst lineups I've ever seen. If it didn't have Volpe, Soto, and Judge, it easily could have been. After those guys, no Wells, no Rice, no Cabrera. Also, what did Cabrera say, by the way, to get treated like this? This is awful. I mean,
well, I told you it was contract, right? DJ LeMahieu plays third base. I know they tell us it's because of the defensive upgrade, but I promise you, Jake, if the contracts were reversed, Cabrera would be at third base. He was faster, and offensively, it was night and day difference. Night and day. There were times where Cabrera was our best offensive player for a series or two. There was a time when that actually happened. I know people have maybe forgotten about it since we're like 80 games into the season. This is my job. I didn't forget it. Okay. I promise you guys, DJ LeMahieu will not be the best player in any series this year. Not once.
No.
Okay. So you can call that luck, bad luck, whatever you want to call that. It's just the potential of a player. And people tell me all day, every day, I don't respond to half of them, but they'll say the Yankees need to get more athletic. How do you possibly watch a 6'4" DJ LeMahieu, watch the way he plays the game of baseball and think, you know what would help this team get more athletic, to which they were already complaining wasn't athletic enough with Cabrera? How about we take Cabrera off the field and replace him with one of the most unathletic players on the team? What are we talking about?
I mean, at this point, you can't sit here and tell me there's a bunch of major league hitters in this lineup. And you can't sit here and tell me this is why so-and-so who has an 1800 OPS, or this is why so-and-so who's leading all of minor league baseball in homers, and this is why so-and-so who's hitting 299 and is constantly on base and generates walk after walk should be in AAA. Okay? Caleb Durbin would be one of the better hitters in this lineup, right? Agustin Ramirez would add some power to this lineup that does not exist. Remember I said when Stanton was out of the lineup and Judge was out of the lineup, I was like, there's really not a lot of power. It's very top heavy. I mean,
yeah, it seemed that way. 100%.
You and I are all for Volpe having his level swing. We don't care about the homers. It'll come. And if it doesn't, who cares? I just want the ball in play. I want him to get on base, all of that. But the other guys have to produce something because Volpe's hitting 270. What are you guys doing? I mean, you guys aren't hitting for average. You're not hitting home runs. You're not stealing bases. You're not scoring runs. You're not batting runners in. I mean, it's pathetic.
And they're not fielding or hustling. Gleyber Torres, again, just to circle this back to
my God.
Gleyber Torres is not hitting well. He's not fielding well. He leads the league in errors. He doesn't leave the ballpark. He's got like 7 homers. He doesn't hustle. Ground ball to shortstop. He's walking. The manager isn't pulling from the game. He's not really like managing anything when it comes to, because you have to manage men, okay? Personality, not just X's and O's. You have to run the clubhouse. I know that people think because we put a C on Aaron Judge's chest that means that he's supposed to figure all this stuff out. No, that's Aaron Boone's job.
Did you notice he was talking with LeMahieu after the air?
No.
Yeah, in the dugout. He was like...
I did not see that, no.
It was interesting because it didn't feel like it was out of the, oh, yeah, man, it's all right. Like, they were talking for a while, and LeMahieu was just like, so I don't know. But, no, I get your point. I mean...
He should have been out of the game. That's what I'm saying. If Aaron Boone was serious about this job, and I assume he is, there is no way you can possibly justify, and don't give me he has a groin injury. Because if he has a groin injury, go ahead and call up some of those prospects. Go call Brian Cashman and say, take your pick. If you're the one who calls these guys up, because Jake, you told me that Brian Cashman, it's his job to determine who's coming up on this roster, and I think you're right. Well, go find me a guy who can run down the first base line, because I promise you there's someone in our system who can hit 210 and run down the line.
That's what I'm saying.
It'll make the Yankees better.
That's what I'm saying. I'm at the point where I don't even care. I don't care anymore. I feel like when you have a lineup that has all this just mediocrity, and that's being nice.
Yep.
How can you justify anybody being in AAA when they're hitting well and say, yeah, they're not quite MLB ready? So who is? Because Jahmai Jones and his 190 batting average. I'm sorry, when he gets up to the plate, it just looks like an automatic out. His at-bats stink, okay? And, then you have LeMahieu, and, I mean, yeah, LeMahieu walks and all that. He is absolutely nothing at the plate anymore. And
Jake, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So tell me, do you have the box score right now, the Yankees? And for those of you who are listening to the show and watching on YouTube, if you see the box score, and do yourself a favor and pull that up, do you see this is the 38 and 39? Really, you can describe them as the surging New York Mets. Do you see what the ops look like down 1-9 for the Mets. And this is a team that we wouldn't describe as one of the best teams in the league. We would not describe. We'd say that they're just the Mets, as Jeter would call them. Do you notice anything, the difference between the ops between the two teams?
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, it's kind of funny because the on-base percentage does kind of go in the Yankees' favor, but I get
the ops. Okay, essentially what you learn from looking at these two lineups, one team has our top of our lineup is much better than the Mets. Okay, it's just simply put.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look 5-9, the ops of the New York Mets, 821, 626 below average, 925, 904, 579, and then 723. Okay. Now, here we go to the New York Yankees. Now, of course, some context here, some young players who don't have a ton of pedigree. 627, 700, 654. That's 3 players in a row below league average. 707, 449, almost 300 points below league average. 749, and then Grisham at 611. Okay, so I essentially just listed the overwhelming majority of players on the New York Yankees hitting 5-9 in today's lineup were hitting below average. It's just not going to get it done. You can't look at a lineup that's heroic 1-4. You have an injury or two, and then you tell me what, you're out of gas? Well, if that's the case, call up a prospect and put them in a position of power. In my opinion, they did the right thing by calling Ben Rice up. I thought that was fantastic. I thought Brian Cashman deserves a ton of credit for doing that. I thought, in general, Rice can play first base and catcher, which is exactly what this team needed. But what's so interesting is that they're not giving him the keys. Why? Why not?
I think we'll have to see if this changes. I mean, to be fair to them, they put in Rice. He immediately made contact. We have to see now moving forward if, okay, we were wrong. I mean, there were 7 runs scored. Okay. So 7 RBIs.
Yep.
5 of them were Judge. 1 of them was Soto. And the other one was Wells, who came in to pinch hit. So the issue that I have, why, like, Wells is not playing as much. Trevino had the hit. Yes. He also had the really pathetic attempt to throw to second. That was not even close.
That's surprising.
I know. So I guess my issue is, how do you not learn from your mistake with Cabrera? Cabrera's playing every day. His OPS was at one point over 1,000. Then it went down, back down to earth around like 700, 800, whatever. And then he stops playing every day. And he's playing every 5 days. And you start to see the slump. You start to see him over pursuing. Now he's trying the launch angle. He's trying to uppercut the ball again. Because think about it, as a young player, what's the biggest impact you can make at that point? If your manager's already said DJ LeMahieu is our third baseman, you basically just got screwed, right?
Before he was even back.
Before he was even back.
Yep.
What are you thinking as a young player? Like, maybe I need to hit more home runs. So then all of a sudden, with your limited opportunities, now you're trying to uppercut the ball. Now you're not playing to the best of your ability, and he just doesn't look the same. So it's not, and again, we don't know for sure, but I have a really good idea that Cabrera's issue right now is that when he's in there, he tries to overdo it because he doesn't get a lot of opportunities. He's completely out of rhythm. If you let him play every day, if you committed to him and just kept LeMahieu on the pine, and just, obviously let him play first when Rizzo went down before you called up Ben Rice, I mean, I think we'd be looking at probably a 247 to 252 hitter. I think we'd be looking at a guy who you could kind of move all around the lineup. And I think we'd be talking about, wow, it's a little bit of a surprise, but maybe not really. Oswaldo Cabrera actually looks good. Like, and so I feel like now you've created this turmoil inside of your organization, your lineup, all that, because, Gleyber's hitting 215 and you're not really, like, at one point, Boone said, okay, he's got to catch the pop up. That was the only discipline he ever got. Okay, so he's not really been held accountable. Wells, keep in mind, he started off the year as the guy, and then they started doing we're going to platoon him with Jose Trevino. Then Trevino started hitting well. So then Trevino took over as the everyday catcher. But then we started to see Trevino's arm wasn't quite there because the wrist injury. Teams were taking advantage of it. And there was no adjustment really made. Wells was still playing every 5 days. It's like they're doing the same thing they did with Cabrera and are
Yeah, a
wondering
young
why.
catcher playing once a week is not
Yeah,
going to play well. If you think,
it's insane.
show me the guy that plays well as a rookie or his second year in the big leagues and he plays once a week. It doesn't happen, okay? Most of the players who are contributors at this level in the big leagues, they at some point or another are handed the keys. I actually thought, by the way, Jake, I thought Cabrera, I believe that the Yankees had no clue who was playing third base coming into this season. And then when DJ LeMahieu goes down, I was like, oh, okay, well, Cabrera, it just seems like he just took it and ran with it. I
Yeah.
actually thought that the Yankees were just going to buy into that situation. I was like dumbfounded by it. I had no clue DJ LeMahieu was just third baseman. I didn't know that. Okay, so that was something I had to learn.
Well, and we liked
I'm
John
sad I had
Birdie.
learned it.
And Birdie was
What's
hitting
that?
270, John Birdie, and then he
Yes.
gets hurt. And then they're like, LeMahieu. And they're like, well, come on. Why?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, don't do the whole he's done a lot for us over his career. That's great. So did A-Rod. He didn't get a nice welcome or a nice goodbye. You know, he didn't get a retirement ceremony. They pushed him out so they could bring Judge up. A lot of people forget that. So look, I'm right your wrongs. Cabrera was a mistake. You can fix it. It's still early. It's still not even July. Put Cabrera back in the lineup. Keep Rice in the lineup. It was funny. The one thing I disagree with Michael Kay on today during his Michael Kay show was that he was saying, and it's kind of easy to kind of just use injuries as a crutch. We talked about this before. He mentioned Stanton, but he also mentioned Rizzo. Rizzo getting hurt is not the reason they started losing. Okay. We were talking about Rizzo getting knocked out of the lineup in favor of Rice. We just didn't think they'd actually do it.
Yeah, we had proof
Then
of that.
he got hurt. So when he got hurt, obviously that we were hoping, but we didn't think that he would actually get called up. But Rice, to me, there's no way you take him out. He's a better fielder than anybody the Yankees have at first, period. Okay. That scoop he had today told me everything.
That was nice.
Okay. That told me everything because I've already seen the range. We've already seen him be able to go all the way to the second base side and get over and make the play on the bag. He's got good athleticism. He wants to be there. There's a lot of, he's playing like a rookie. He's playing like a guy who just doesn't even know when to quit because he hasn't experienced that calmness. He hasn't experienced the pressure's off me. He hasn't experienced that, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm probably not going to, think about it, but I guess really, kind of taking it for granted. And it goes back to, we can kind of tie this up into a bow, but that's what I think Gleyber deals with. I think he's taken this all for granted. It's gotten to the point where, he's played 7 years in the major leagues and now he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to jog. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think they're going to break your heart, by the way. I think when Rizzo gets healthy, they're just going to throw him right back in the lineup. If Rice is playing well, if he's not, I just think in general, they just kind of have their mind made up about certain guys. And that's disappointing.
So. I actually don't think so.
You think that they're going to transition out of it?
Because I think they see the writing on the wall with Rizzo. I think they were starting to see that. Keep in mind, Rizzo was benched. Okay. He was benched at one point.
Yes, he was.
So that lets me know, okay. But Ben Rice is hitting 316 right now with a 391 on base percentage. And I'm well aware he hasn't, had 100 games or anything like that. But everywhere he has gone, he has hit well. He has shown no signs. And we could see the signs. We saw the signs. Jason Dominguez first came up. He had the home run his first at bat, but there were some signs. Okay, he's gonna chase here. There were different things that could get. I don't see signs with Rice. Rice is really well put together. He's got a great mental makeup for the game, and his approach at the plate is one of confidence. It's not one of lack of experience. He's got more, honestly, keep in mind, these AAA guys, AA guys, whatever, they're still really good. He's got plenty of experience hitting against talent, and miss me with the experience talk because he's going up there and he's putting a better at bat together than any of these guys that have been in the league for a combined 20 something years.
Yeah, and those
So,
young players, their flaws are usually glaring. When they get up to the big
yeah,
leagues, I know hitting
that's
in the
my
big
thing.
leagues looks easy, but Ben Rice, like when Volpe got up, we were just like, oh, okay, the top of the strike zone's a problem.
Yeah,
Okay, with his swing. But in general, Ben Rice just seems like a well put together baseball. He looks like a baseball player. Like
he
he just
does.
does everything well. And that's something we need more of. But Jake, I want to transition into a part of the show I think is probably the most important thing that happened today. And that is Gerrit Cole.
Yeah,
Because we discussed this before he ever arrived. We talked about the whole prospect of what's going through the mentality of the Yankees, like what's going through their mind. Because are they going to actually build him up? And it looked like, at least on the surface, that they were going to be starting him in the minor leagues, using the minor leagues as almost like a mini spring training or a full size spring training, and making sure Gerrit Cole was ready and built up to pitch and essentially to hit the ground running. Because we talked about it, that has to happen. But what's so crazy, and then before I kick it off to you, they didn't do that. Okay. And that was proven when Gerrit Cole came back and they told us that there was a pitch count on him. That pitch count was hovering around 70 to 75 pitches. He got to 62 pitches, right? They pulled him out of his first start. That fastball in both starts, 2 starts he's had so far in the majors, have not been the stuff that we're used to seeing from Gerrit Cole. You saw a lot of knuckle curves, right? A lot of breaking balls, a lot of cutters in his first start. The second start, Gerrit Cole hit 199, and I know people said, oh, he's good. Hitting 199 is not what matters. In my opinion, what matters is your baseline fastball. And we'll find out what that is in the second and third inning. Long behold, in today's start, Gerrit Cole was throwing 94, 95 miles an hour as his baseline fastball. That tells me, that doesn't mean he's getting Tommy John. I don't freak out about any of that stuff. But what it tells me is that he's not revved up. So my question is, why, Jake, would we call him up in a situation where our starting pitching has been, I would say they've answered the bell. Okay. They've done that. Why wouldn't you put Gerrit Cole in a situation where he can just iron out all these issues in the minor leagues? And then when he shows up to the big leagues where it clearly matters, you can't even go beat the Mets without your best fastball. Why wouldn't we have just been patient, Jake?
well, I don't know if you remember, but I did say the Yankees could literally wait until August to bring him back. I mean, the rotation has been excellent.
Yep.
I think really at this point, only the Mariners, I would say, have had more success this year with the rotation because their rotation's disgusting.
They're just flat out better.
But aside from that, they've had one of the best rotations in baseball, and that was without Cole. And I think this is kind of a reminder for us. First off, guy coming off injury, guy misses, training, spring training. We've already talked about that, so I won't hit that narrative again because we talked about that all the time with Snell and Montgomery, and of course Rodon. But it's not just the missing spring training. We just assume, as analysts, fans, even the teams, well, Gerrit Cole's Gerrit Cole. He won the Cy Young. So, obviously, even though our 5 guys are great, and we were using the same people are using, if it's not broke, don't fix it with Volpe, being at the 7 hole and not moving him up because they didn't want to change anything, even though he was clearly supposed to be the leadoff hitter. And now we're seeing that. Those same people aren't saying anything about Gerrit Cole. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I actually brought that up. I was happy Cole was back, but I also kind of assumed he was ready because of just how quickly he came back. I know they said June, early June, and it was later, but I still think it was a little fast. And the reason I say that is because they were going off of what he did in single A and double A, the strikeouts and everything. Because he had like 13 strikeouts. And look, that's great. But at the same time, it's MLB hitting. He, like you said, there was no rev up period. I don't really think the minor leagues is going to give you that because there are just too many methodical hitters.
Does strikeouts even matter at the minor league level? Like, I never looked at Gerrit Cole striking out 10 guys in double A and thinking, oh shit, he's ready. You know what would have told me Gerrit Cole was ready? If I looked at the radar gun at triple A level and I saw 98 on the gun in the 6th inning and I said, oh, how many pitches did Gerrit Cole throw tonight? And someone told me 90, 92, 94, right? He actually pitched a full start. I would have said, okay, I'm confident that he's ready. You've built him up down there to the point where he can go an extended period of time on the mound because that's his job. He's a starter. He's no reliever. He's not pitching the 8th or the 9th. He's throwing 1 through, however long he can. So I never cared about strikeouts from Gerrit Cole. I didn't think it was a stuff thing. I think Gerrit Cole will always have that. But when you're talking about him being Gerrit Cole, what makes him Gerrit Cole is that he's the same pitcher, pitch 1 through pitch 95, roughly, right? He's the same guy. And if you never threw more than 85 pitches at the minor league level, why should I believe that you can do that at the big leagues? I shouldn't. You haven't shown it. So I can just assume every single time you go up there, if you're going to do what you just did in the minors, you're going to pitch till the 5th, and then what? I've got to go bring out 4 relievers? That's not ready. In my opinion, based on the starters and what they've done in this rotation outside of Gerrit Cole, we could have been patient to the point where Gerrit Cole returned when he's been stretched out to 90 pitches. Once he's gotten to that point, and they said, because they wouldn't have in the minor leagues left him at 90 pitches and been like, hey, his fastball's at 92. You know what they would have done? They would have pulled him off the mound. But if he pitched 95 pitches today, Jake, his fastball would have been at 93, 92, 93. That's where his arm was today. He wasn't ready. His location was obviously atrocious, but that's honestly less of a problem. It was a problem. He wasn't ready. Okay, so that's my mentality on it. It literally looked like Rodon, his first year with the Yankees. It looked exactly like that. No idea where his fastball was going.
That was the worst start I've ever seen him pitch.
Do you know that today he gave up 4 homers, didn't strike out anybody? It was the first time that happened to a Yankee pitcher in 52 years.
Yeah, see, that just tells me like this isn't commonplace. Something was up, and what was up is what we're talking about. Cole wasn't ready, and it's baseball. Like we talk about all the time. It's annoying that they lost to the Mets. I hate the Mets. But I mean, at the same time, the Mets could beat the Dodgers. They could beat the Yankees. They could beat the Phillies. The Yankees could win tomorrow 12-0. It wouldn't.
Yeah, and it's fair. The Mets are playing well right now too.
Yeah, unfortunately. But my thing, Gary, is that with Cole, it's actually kind of funny because we disagree a little bit. So the velocity is always a sign, right? I was more concerned about the location. I felt like he was missing his spots, clearly missing his spots. I think at one point he really showed his frustration. There were some really obvious outside pitches, and he was like, they're not all balls. Remember he said that? That was just frustration. I think he really just, what he was trying to do wasn't happening. It's like you ever go, maybe not you, but I go to the gym and
I was going to say, I only go to the bowling alley and back home, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I go to the gym, and there's just every now and then, maybe the recovery wasn't great. The process was kind of, rushed. Maybe I ate and went to the gym too quickly, but for whatever reason, I don't have that same fire, energy, and pump that I had the day before. Okay, so now I'm going to try to get through it. Now I'm going to get frustrated, maybe even, whatever. And that's how I kind of relate that to Cole because, when you realize something's not going your way, you're like, well, dude, I can bench more than this. Why can't I bench more than this today? What the hell? I just did that last week. Like, same with Cole. I was not bad last week. Like I pitched
Right.
decently well because you're Gerrit Cole. So the rev up process doesn't mean you're forever screwed. You can still get away with having good outings, but for the most part, this is gonna linger, and I don't think it'll last too long. I definitely think the Tommy John talk is outrageous,
Agreed.
absolutely outrageous, because we don't know. Okay, like it's not like when we were talking about Jason Dominguez and Juan Soto and how Jason Dominguez had started off with inflammation, then turned into Tommy John surgery, and we were hoping that wasn't the case for Soto, but like there was a pattern there. The things were lining up. It's not like Gerrit Cole came out and said this or Boone said this, and that points back to a time where Boone said this and it ended up being Tommy John. Okay. And it also, I didn't get the Luis Severino Cincinnati Reds vibes either. I was at that game, so I know exactly the one that everyone brings up where he just gave home run, home run, home run. And we're like, oh,
yeah,
that was the end terrible. Of Severino. It was really sad. But it wasn't that today. It was just a bad day. Bad day coupled with the fact that he's not revved up, as you put it.
I like that because not everything's doom and gloom. So I actually like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep an eye on it because in general, when you lose 9-7 to the New York Mets, it doesn't feel good, right? It stings. But I guess we should put this into perspective. We're not healthy. We need to get healthy. There are no excuses. Everybody's hurt on every team. So no excuses. Get out there on the field and perform. And the one bright side here is that the Baltimore Orioles cannot win a game right now. They cannot win a game.
Like the Yankees are still in first.
Yeah, by some way. We're up like 2 games right now. So let's just be thankful that Baltimore hasn't performed like the Baltimore that we're used to, because if they had and we were down 3.5 games right now, I think Yankees fans in general, and maybe you would start hearing different things from the Yankees clubhouse if that were the case. But we've kind of gotten a shot in the arm based on what Baltimore hasn't been able to do. And let's just take that and hopefully turn this thing around.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think the thing that was really frustrating today was the fact that I don't think the lineup is just bad without Stanton. I think it's bad with what they put out there today. I think they have options and they refuse to go with the guys that make the most sense.
100% agree.
They're still going with the big names, right? That's what they're doing. They're going with the LeMahieu's and Torres, but tell me Cabrera wouldn't be better in that lineup right now. And tell me Cabrera doesn't maybe beat out that play. I'm not saying he would have, but he would have made it a throw. Would have been a tough play.
Oh, but just overall, we're better. Gleyber Torres is not a better option than Cabrera right now. He's just not. DJ, not a better option. So we've got 2 players on the field right there. Spare us with the other ones. 2 guys right there who shouldn't be playing over another guy. He's more athletic. He's better. He's just better in every way.
And then you have, I mean, your designated pinch runner is your designated hitter, which is absolutely just an atrocity. I mean, how can you have a designated hitter who can't hit? I just don't get that. I don't get that. And you can't just use, well, Jahmai Jones hit that 3-run home run 2 weeks ago when you said he shouldn't have been hitting 5. Exactly. It's just, of course he hit a home run. He's going to hit a home run. All these guys are going to hit well, maybe not LeMahieu. But I mean,
no, DJ will hit a home run.
I know
at
he
some
will.
Point.
At some
He'll
point,
spray a ball the other way at Yankee Stadium. It'll be hot,
and then that'll get people off his back for a day. That's how it works, man. That's how it works. They hit one home run, and it's like, well, LeMahieu's been hitting well lately. No, he hasn't.
Does that silence the haters? I'm like, his ops is 200. No, it doesn't.
Oh, and my favorite. You already know where I'm going with this. The DJ LeMahieu apology form.
Oh my gosh.
He hits one home run and that's coming up.
Do you know, Jake, when you say you know where I'm going with this, don't you know like 99% of the time I have no idea where you're going with it?
No, I just assumed you would know.
No, but you're completely right. Because remember like Josh Donaldson hit that opposite field bomb and then CC Sabathia tweeted out and we're like, where are the apologies? I'm like, what the fuck do you mean I'm going to apologize to him?
No, I'm not.
Apologize to him. He's hitting 190. I'm not apologizing to anybody.
How about apologize for me?
In the big leagues.
How apologize to me? Why the hell are you putting freaking Jahmai Jones in at DH? That's bad for my eyes, man.
I literally went to Yankee Stadium, spent like $58 on 2 chicken buckets and like a couple sodas. And you mean to tell me I've got to apologize to a guy hitting 194 and he's because he hit one homer? Now all of a sudden it just justifies his whole season and his existence? It doesn't. You know what really justifies someone's existence? Consistent positive play. That's the only thing. It does not matter like necessarily what JD Davis or Verdugo or Torres does tomorrow necessarily. It's about who you are over a long extended period of time. Because remember, when those like young guys go out there, they don't play well and they say, well, he's only been out there about 10 games. I say, okay, that's fair. But what if he's played 110 games? Is it fair for me to say that him having one good day after 110 bad days, that it doesn't mean that he's good all of a sudden? It just means that a blind squirrel found a nut. That's all it meant. So that's, I guess, I would probably say that's the conclusion to what it is. I completely agree with you, Jake. The Yankees just put out a bad lineup. They have some options. They have some choices. They're making the wrong choices, and that falls on Boone 100%. We've given him credit when it was due.
He's
all the
getting
credit.
micromanaging now. I'm just
calling
it.
Shit in the bed. So it's got to turn around quick.
And tomorrow, 7:10 against the Mets, Sean Manaea is on the mound, and he's also a left-handed pitcher. So help me God, if they put Ben Rice on the bench for JD Davis tomorrow because can't hit lefties, I'm gonna lose my shit, Gary.
You're gonna be mad, I'm telling you.
Miss me with the lefty righty bullshit. Get me guys that can put the bat on the freaking ball. Do you want to know my comp for Ben Rice, by the way? I think he's Brandon Belt. I think that is exactly what he is. He is Brandon Belt. I'm watching him and I'm like, you know what?
Okay.
He is that Giants first baseman, all-star, 280 hitter. That is what he is. Okay. He's not going to be overly flashy, but that's a guy that you might want a long time. The Giants wanted him a long time. He was there for a while. I think Ben Rice could be with the Yankees for about 10 years. I really believe that. And I think there's a chance that, I know, we've seen Bird and, obviously Rizzo now, and there have been guys in the past, Voit, but no, I get the feeling that this is more in tune of what the Yankees have tried to push. This whole contact at the plate. He's more Verdugo than he is, say, Gallo, right?
Absolutely.
But also, as he gets more comfortable, we're going to start to see the ball leave and hit the seats. And I think that's going to be the time where you start to see, this guy's not only clutch, this guy not only gets the bat on the ball, but he's got some power too. Because Ben Rice is a power hitter, but he focuses on contact more, and he's cheap. And we talk about it all the time. Hal Steinbrenner came out and was like, well, we're not spending money. And then it got all the Yankee fans like, well, we can't give him a blank check. He told us that they have a salary cap. They don't. But he basically told us, like, they're not going to spend money. Well, if you really believe that, if you 100% believe what Hal was saying, then take it for what it is. Because if that's the case, Ben Rice makes more sense than ever. And so if he's not in the lineup tomorrow, I don't even know how people are going to want to watch tomorrow. I really don't, because that to me is just unacceptable. Okay. It's really that simple, just unacceptable. They have about 6-7 years of control with this guy because he has not even had an accrued MLB season. He's going to be around for a long time if they don't F this up. And they definitely can't trade him. They can't trade him. So they got to keep doing their thing with him. They got to keep letting him play because I really like what I've seen from him. And a big thing from him is that he might not walk, because that was a concern I saw people have, but he doesn't strike out.
He's been walking.
He doesn't strike out. Well, even if he, and I mean, I didn't look necessarily at his walks just now, but he hasn't been striking out. He gets the bat on the ball. That's all we ask. Put the ball in play. If one of those Nimrods put the ball in play when the bases were loaded in the first inning, the Yankees probably win this freaking game. I mean,
you're not wrong.
Lo and behold, the freaking, first batter when the bases are loaded is Gleyber. Who is that on? That's not on Gleyber Torres. That's on Aaron Boone for putting him in that situation to begin with. That's why the cleanup hitter at the end of the day matters. Verdugo wasn't great in his at bat either, but I still say this: Judge, Soto, and Volpe all on the base paths, and we'll end it on this. All of them on the base paths, and I think Gleyber Torres' at bat and him swinging over his head for that pitch set the tone for the rest of the inning. I think after that, Verdugo, he's trying to do too much, misses. And then JD Davis, I thought his at bat was the best of the three, but you got to protect the plate there. It might have been a little off. You got to protect the plate. You can't go down looking. But regardless, bases loaded, no outs. You got, Peterson in a wicked jam early on, chance to break the game open. And instead, we're talking about Peterson dominating. I'm sure people who had stuff to do and they couldn't watch the full game and only watched the beginning, and they only saw guys on, bases loaded, and they're like, all right, I have to run errands. Just this sounds like a Yankee win. They were probably dumbfounded when they saw 9-1 on the board at one point. Because it's just,
yep.
Peterson had 8 strikeouts. He's not even a strikeout pitcher.
No, we just have to be more opportunistic, which overall this season we have been. We have been a team that's made adjustments. One day we'll strike out 11 times, 0 walks, and we're saying, what the hell was that? That was terrible. And then the next day, you see 2 straight performances where there is an approach, where they are working counts, where they're working into the bullpen. They do damage when they have to, not just hitting homers, right? Guys on second and third, putting the ball into the outfield, getting guys to advance and scoring runs and just driving in runs in non-sexy ways. That was a situation right there, bases loaded, nobody out, where it didn't have to be about you and putting up hits and crooked numbers on the board, where they just needed to do less. And it seemed like Gleyber Torres was trying to do something out of slugfest loaded or MVP baseball. It didn't look like it had anything to do with team baseball. It just wasn't.
It was over his
like
head.
Wiffle ball. Yeah, it reeked of a young player, and he's been in this league way too long to make those type of mistakes. But I'll tell you this, you keep making those mistakes, I feel like it's justified for me to call for somebody else to do your job. That's it.
Yeah. If Ben Rice was cleanup, then at least 1 run scores. Hell, even if DJ LeMahieu and his lack of pop would have had a dribbler, he probably would have grounded into a double play and not gotten the RBI, but a run would have scored. So there you go. That's going to do it. Because if we don't stop now, then we're never going to stop. We could keep going.
This show was supposed to be 30 minutes, which, by the way, I just want to let everybody know before we log off, we are this close to 800 subscribers, which I know in 2 years we're going to laugh at 800 subs when we have a silver plaque back here. But I'll tell you this. We are incredibly thankful for everybody, because our show has just been doing, I know Jake and I both thought the show would do really well, but to see, there's shows out there with 4,500 subscribers and they don't get half the viewership we get. And not to mention just views, but people who actually stick around and leave comments about things. And I pay attention to this, about things we said at the end of the show. And that's been the most impressive thing to me, is that we actually have fans that are giving us an opportunity to, sometimes we'll give some terrible opinions. That happens when you do a show every day. But then there's other times where we do hit on things and people are actually giving us the chance to give context. So yeah, I appreciate all you guys. And then Jake, of course, appreciate you being my co-host, because I would not be talking Verdugo, Torres, and JD Davis for an hour and a half every night. I'll tell you that, with anybody else.
Hey, there's no one I'd rather talk Yankee baseball with. So that's the God honest truth. But so right back at you, man. It's been a blast. We're just getting started. We're just kicking off. We're in our Rice age, if you will. Hey, he's just kicking off his career and he's already putting up numbers. We're just kicking off our little career here in baseball, and we're putting up numbers. So, but we don't put up numbers without you guys, and that's really the God's honest truth. When we post this thing at 4 a.m., I don't. Hopefully, it won't be 4 a.m. when this comes out. But when we post this thing, and I wake up and I see 500 views, and it's 10 a.m., I'm like, what the hell? I'll text Gary. He's not even up yet. I'll text
not
Gary.
Even close.
I'll text Gary and I'll be like, bro, this is gonna hit 1,000 views. We recorded this and we said no one's gonna watch this. The Yankees just
Yeah,
lost
anytime we
17
say
of
a show's
5.
gonna do good, it just doesn't. It bombs. And
Yeah.
then when we say a show is just gonna bomb, it's like the next Avatar on YouTube. I don't know what happens. I really don't. Like one time we said it was gonna be 200 view video and we had 2,000. So
Yeah.
clearly we don't know what we're talking about.
Nope.
So I guess we'll see how this video does, but hopefully we eclipse 800 subs after, I guess, when they see this video tomorrow.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you guys soon.
Like this video.